Hi, I'm Michelle Hewitt.
And I'm Amanda Lockitch, and this is Disability with Possibility.
Dancing with the flames, even when I'm down. There's a power burning louder, charging for
Michelle, who's our guest today?
So today we're going to talk to Shelley Petit, and she's in New Brunswick, long distance away from us two here in BC. Shelley's going to talk to us about her disability and how things have played out for her. I guess it's fair that we should always offer a bit of a trigger warning. Those of us who live with disability get pretty used to talking about our disabilities and how they affect us on a daily basis. And Shelley is extremely open, and she's going to tell us some really personal details about how her disability affect her. So over to her for her words.
dancing with the flames, even when I'm down.
So Shelley, tell us, people in BC, how is it in New Brunswick today?
Well, it's very hot. It's been a heat wave down here, so we've been dying, and not too bad for me. I have AC, but if I were somebody with a disability living in New Brunswick housing, I would not be allowed to have AC, so I would be literally croaking.
Oh my, not allowed, not even not have, not allowed.
No, you can have the movable floor models. You can't have a window model because they don't want to pay for the electricity, because if you live in MB housing, they pay for your power. And I guess the portable units use less, but the portable units also cost 4 times as much to buy. So a person with a disability can't afford that. And if you need a window model, and you even with a doctor's note, they will evict you.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're really special out there. You're always my favorite people to quote. I always say to people, well, it could be worse. You could live in New Brunswick.
In Brunswick, yeah, and we'll all agree.
You could get $900 a month. So.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, we had our
$918. Come on.
We had our own heat dome 3 years ago where we were in the interior. We got to like 46 and 47 one day, and it's no joke. And I'd never heard of a heat dome before we got them, and now you're getting them, and obviously California and so on. Makes a big difference to our lives, hey, as disabled people.
Absolutely. So we were 44 yesterday with the Humidex down here, and 43 today. And it affects your medications, it affects your body, it affects your ability to sleep, to move. It adds a whole other layer to it, and it's not fun. The only good thing, the new emergency measures set up in my city, they have called on me every day to make sure that I'm okay, because they check on vulnerable people with disabilities. So, are you okay?
That's
Do you need
amazing.
water? Do you need anything? And it was really nice to know that somebody cared, because it's surely not my provincial government, but somebody cares.
That's pretty good. I don't know if my city would get around to that by the time the next one comes, which could be next week, of course. But as you say, to know that. Somebody one would hope that if you didn't answer the phone, they would actually come to the door.
Yes. They do. Yeah, they do. And they call once every 6 months to check your information and make sure it's still current.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Hey, talk about neighborly and doing the right thing. That's great. But as you say, it's so when the heat is that oppressive, it's hard to get out and around and just do your regular,
everyday.
Well, spend
life.
the extra $18 over that $900 on your groceries.
When we had the heat dome in Vancouver, I told the son, just stop, and then realized that I had actually said that out loud while walking down the street. It was like, oh goodness.
Well, it's oppressive. You don't understand. Until you live through it, you can hear it's 40 or 44, but till you're in it, it's like a wall of heat hits you. It's incredible.
Yeah, and as you say, as it affects your medications, and it affects your medications affect your ability to burn in the sun and all kinds of things, right?
Oh yeah,
It's not an easy life. Anyway, We are here with disability without poverty, disability with possibility. So let's move into some of that because Shelley, you are one of the most positive people I know. You are one of those turn that smile. The other way.
Turn the
that
frown upside down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm that one. I'm the smile upside down. And anyway, I want to ask you about something in your bio that absolutely, you were a 22-year Girl Guide of Canada leader, which you still do virtually. What's virtual Girl Guides like?
It's mostly I do training of other leaders, so to get them ready. But we also, the first year of the pandemic, the girls lost out on camping. So we did a virtual camp for all of Atlantic Canada. We had about 300 girls at it, and they stayed at their homes, but we did activities together over Zoom. We did scavenger hunts around the house. We made tents in our living rooms. We had a campfire sing-along, and it was as close as we could give them to a real camping experience, but we didn't want the girls to lose out on that big part of guiding. So we did what we could do to make them have fun, and then we had specially made masks with our camp logo on it and some crests and all that stuff done.
I could totally do that type of guiding still.
Yeah.
I could do that now because, So, do you have I know you said you train leaders, but is there like a disabled girl guides for those that, can't get out as much, that's done virtually?
Well, they have what's called loans, and it's sort of that idea. So a loans unit is more like for a girl that maybe their father or mother has been transferred out of Canada or to a really remote base where there is no guiding. But we don't so much have virtual units. I just do the training virtually, but I missed it because it was such a big part of my life, so I had to stay attached somehow. And now I sit on area council, and I do what's called safe guide assessor work. So I check to make sure everything that they're planning fits under the safety category. So I'm the mean one that goes, no, you can't do that without a lifeguard. But it still keeps me involved in the organization, which was really important for me because it was such a huge part of my life, and I wasn't letting my disability take everything from me. It took enough. It couldn't have everything.
Yeah, and I suppose, so Shelley, if you don't mind me saying, you have MCS, you have multiple chemical sensitivities. So does that limit your ability to access the outside world, or is it more of an indoor chemical sensitivity? Or?
It's both. So I don't really leave my house. I leave to go for a medical appointment, and that's very risky. I go get groceries sometimes. That's about it. It's just too hard. And I go visit my mom. She's in a nursing home now. She's near the end of her life. But I have to wear a gas mask to leave my house, to even open the door to let the cats in or out. Sometimes the cats will come in with a smell on them, and boom, I'm on the floor. If Norm goes out, when he comes home, he has to change immediately. He actually took early retirement because he was a school bus driver and too much was coming into the house. So it's a challenge, absolutely, but
And this is something that came in, and you sort of say it really from one day to the next, your entire life changed.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I mean, if I look back now and I understand what MCS is, I can see in hindsight it building up for 10 years. But at first it was just, I would get a reaction to perfume. Then it was headaches. Then at some point it would start to be, I started with the breathing issues and severe migraines, or I'd be out of work, off school for 2 or 3 days because I was a teacher. Then the bad breathing problems started. I started having anaphylactic reactions. So then after one school year of having about 4 and being removed by ambulance quite a few times, the district moved me to a smaller school, but put me right next to the custodian closet. So I don't know if they were trying to kill me or help me. Right. And and across from the gym, and I taught middle school, so all the kids are putting on their Axe and their deodorants and all that stuff. So I was still, kind of okay. And if I smelt something, the students kind of knew the protocol and would help me out. But then one Monday morning I walked in and I said, it's that same smell. I remember saying that. That's the last thing I remember till I woke up in the hospital hours later. I died that morning. There was just I was told all this. I don't remember any of it. There was an ambulance across the street. That's the only reason I'm here talking to you today. So my heart stopped. I have scars on my chest from where they used the paddles to charge me back to life. But they got my heart going. They got my lungs going again. And that was it. From that day on, I could taste every chemical out there. I taste it before I smell it. If I'm exposed to it, and sometimes I don't even taste it, and then all of a sudden I look like I'm drunk, is what it does. You look like you're drunk. You're slurring your words. I can't stand up. I'm rolling like I'm just, and it felt like I can't get words out. And normal be like, okay, we got to get your tri-salts into you. So it's like drinking baking soda and salt mixed together. Tastes really good, but it neutralizes your system some. It does work, as weird as it sounds. And then you lay down. And that can take 24 to 48 hours to come out of your body. And then the next 48 hours, you just have muscle spasms because it's all, your body's just full of acids and it's just trying to get rid of it. And then you start over.
You know, I think multiple chemical sensitivities is one of, we live in a world where people don't understand disability, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things people, don't understand. We could all talk about that for a long time, but I think MCS is one of the least understood because I think people just go, oh, what do you mean?
You're just overreacting.
You can't sniff something and, right?
Yeah.
But as we know, there are people that have chosen to go through MAID,
yeah,
because they certainly couldn't find their housing because they were living in poverty and there was no housing available to them that wasn't toxic.
Nope.
Having gone to the lengths of stuffing up vents in their house so other smells couldn't get in from the building. So
it's brutally difficult, and as of right now, there is no safe chemical housing in Canada. There is a proposal for Eco-Oasis in Quebec. My will has been updated so that when I do pass, I have money going to Eco-Oasis out of my pension money because it won't help me, but for somebody else down there, hopefully it will help this place get built out in the middle of the Laurentians, hidden from the world, but people can be safe. And that's all we want, the Canaries. We just want to be safe.
Yeah, and it reminds me of my family has a lot of really bad asthma.
Yeah.
And when my mum's a twin and they both just passed 80, her and her twin brother, and her brother had particularly brutal asthma as a child. And he was sent to a England mountains, we can laugh, whatever they think mountains are. But he was sent to a mountain school that was all bare boards and all of that sort of thing because it was the only way he could breathe because, again, his asthma was constantly triggered by, and we're talking about chemicals from 70 odd years ago, right?
Yeah.
And here you are still, you're like out in the Laurentians and so on. You're talking about the same thing, but, a lot later and there's a hell of a lot more chemicals around us.
Yeah. And in New Brunswick, it's particularly bad because 2/3 of all the glyphosate that is sprayed in Canada is sprayed here in little old New Brunswick. And we wouldn't want to have those poor Irvings pay for that. They only have billions and billions of dollars. So not only do we spray 2/3 of all this sprayed in Canada, the government pays for it for the Irving family. So it's my taxpayers' dollars that's spraying to pour the poison down. And they know that it is linked to that mystery disease that has killed people. It has disabled people. They know the different neurologists from the government of Canada that are not being allowed to come down, Health Canada, and get involved. They know it's linked to the glyphosate, but our provincial government will not allow them to come investigate that because they don't want to have to stop spraying the glyphosate that helps out the Irvings. Because don't forget, our premier worked for the Irvings for 50 years before he became premier.
Sorry, is that sprayed on a crop? Is it sprayed on, what is the New Brunswick thing that warrants that?
Our forestry, our trees, because instead of growing what naturally grew in our forests, they now grow just specific species of trees that have been Frankenstein together so that they grow better and faster and they can create more pulp and paper and sell the wood and make paper and everything else. But it's not what's good for our wildlife. That's why wildlife is dying off. We are killing the planet, and then we're wondering why people are so sick and why so many more disabilities are out there. Well, hello, we're doing it to ourselves. Yeah. We are doing it to ourselves. We're killing this planet. We are not far off from living, unfortunately, the true Handmaid's Tale. The chemicals that cause MCS are also all linked to, they can link them to infertility. So many of us with MCS had either endometriosis problems or PCOS problems when we were younger. We're killing our planet. We're killing ourselves. And we're going to get to a point where we cannot reproduce anymore. And when that happens, we're dead. And this is what we're doing to our grandkids and our kids.
So I noticed, Shelley, on your Facebook page, you are preparing, is it this weekend or something really soon? You're about to be at City Hall and particularly to do with reproductive health. Do you want to tell us all about that?
Yeah, so Monday I'm going to risk my life and go out for the march, but I don't care because every now and then you've got to stand up for what is that important. And Monday all across Canada, so the 24th, this will have already probably aired by then, but June 24th is the first annual National Women's Strike. So if you look in your area of the world, you will see them as well. And this is because the 24th is the second anniversary of the downing of Roe v. Wade. And if you think reproductive rights are not being removed here in Canada, then you're not paying attention. So there are some all over British Columbia. They're all over Canada. And I just happened to come across this online and said, okay, I'm going to lead this in my area because nobody is. And if you just go to the National Women's Strike, you'll find movements in your area. And it could be there's all kinds of different activities, but we're just doing a 1-hour march here and going to the City Hall, from the City Hall to the legislature, because here in New Brunswick, whether, let's say you're a woman in a wheelchair who's been sexually assaulted and you need to terminate your pregnancy. A pregnancy results from the sexual assault. You want to terminate that. There are 2 hospitals where you can get them done. That's it. At 2 different ends of the province and no public transportation to get you there. So what are you going to do?
I didn't realize it was national. Makes me, I know this will have gone out after, but hopefully I will find something in my little redneck neck of the woods for Monday as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about New Brunswick. So as I said before, Shelley, you are one of the most positive. You're one of the people that constantly reminds me that, when it comes to the Canada Disability benefit, that when I get caught in the, only $200, you constantly remind me it's $200, and in New Brunswick it's 25% of because you are my example of the pits of Canada when it comes to how much money.
Yeah.
So how do you, Shelley, keep with everything you have going on? It would have been easy for Shelley to go, I'm home, I'm going to read books and watch daytime soaps. What is it that drives you?
Well, that would have driven me insane. So that was one of the reasons. I knew I had to keep my brain going. So I did. I had I had a pity party for myself when this first happened. And it took me a while to figure out what was wrong and what was going on because the doctors couldn't help me. They didn't know. I just happened to come across a Facebook group from researching my symptoms that said, this is, and I started talking to people, and a lady from North Carolina, a lady from Toronto, and a lady from Nova Scotia, who I call Mama Wendy, and she saved my life, right? Like we talked, and she got me through so many things, and do this, and this will help, and change to this product, and get rid of this, and she really changed my life. And then once I got things in my home environment safe enough that I knew as long as I stayed inside my 4 walls, I could be, okay most of the time. Not enough to work because you never know when you're going to be in bed for a week or things like that, but enough that I could kind of function. I came across the coalition that I work with, the New Brunswick Coalition of Persons with Disabilities, and I got involved with them, and that gave me a purpose. And that sense of purpose is what keeps me going. And the sense of knowing every day we do something to help somebody out. We're all working together. So we're all just very much like DWP. We're just all people with disabilities, volunteering our time, trying to help one another, and we're helping people. Like we have one member right now. They're bed bound right now, but they want to keep their license because they go through these ebbs and flows. Their license is due for renewal. The government won't give them any type of extension or any type of leeway or let them just renew online and keep their old picture. No, you've got to go in and get a new picture. Why? During the pandemic, we didn't have to. So not willing to give a reasonable accommodation. So we fought that. Their license has now been renewed. People that aren't getting housing and we're for stupid things. Or in New Brunswick, emotional support animals have the same rights as a service animal. So, and we're having people being denied apartments for that. We're like, no, that's against human rights, and we're fighting it. And we're making a difference. And when you get those little emails from someone saying thank you, that gives you the jump to get up again today and try and do it. And if you're having a bad day, I say, well, today I'm just going to rest or I'm going to watch something on Netflix. But tomorrow I'll get up and get going again. And having a reason to be around and a reason for living allows you to live. If I was just sitting home all day going, oh, pity me, I wouldn't be here. I would not be here.
Your story is similar to mine in a lot of ways. So I was diagnosed at 41 with MS, and now I know that my first symptom that I really remember was at 11. And I was a school principal at that point. So we both come from this education background. So tell me, just, fellow educators, what do you use in your day-to-day activism from your life as an educator? What are the things that you carry with you?
Oh, always looking for the best in people. So even when we're dealing with someone who might be really down or struggling, finding a way to point out what they're doing well, right? So we'll have people that get really down and say, well, I can't do anything anymore in the mood. And they're just negative down. And you try to find that one positive that you can focus their view on and turn it around. Or when you're trying to work with people, it's like, okay, well, they're not learning this way. Let's try a different way of looking at it. Let's reword it a different way. All these little things. And we're doing a lot of work right now trying to get the education, the BED program changed, because in New Brunswick, up till this year, you didn't have to take anything dealing with children with disabilities to become a teacher. So there was one class called Children with Exceptionalities. I hate that. And it was not even mandatory. So now I'm working with a professor at the university who has said this has to change. She just spent 10 or so years in Australia in their program. She's come back to change it. And I guest lectured over Zoom a couple times in her classes with people and talking about, you have to first, well, what should we do in this case? Did you ask the student? Did you ask the student what they want? Have you checked on, and we're having these open dialogues about, you need to listen to the person in front of you. And if they tell you, I can't do it this way, but I can do it this way, let them do it that way. We have a real problem in New Brunswick, too, with them putting students with disabilities on partial days and sending them home. That's denying them their right to education. So our child and youth advocate has come out recently with a report that's called Letting Them Down, the failure of the school system for children. And we're working with that as well, trying to fighting. I'm using my school background to help fight to get these kids in longer, because as soon as we deny these children with any type of disability their education, we are guaranteeing that they're going to be stuck in the social assistance system for the rest of their lives. The rest of their lives. We're saying to them at 10, here you go. You get to be in a system of poverty and ignorance for the rest of your life. How is that right?
Well, and in tandem with that, it also puts such an undue burden on the parents who now have to figure out how to caretake for their child, probably can't work as much. And so that whole cycle, not only for that child growing up, but for the family that they're in currently, starts to go down that hill toward deeper and deeper poverty, right?
Yeah. And it's like it becomes learned helplessness almost, in a way of a form of a learned helplessness, because all you've been taught to, you can't do it. The system has to do it for you, and you get into this circle, and it's a very hard circle to get out of. Very hard to break free.
Right. It's infantilizing people instead of uplifting them and offering them possibility and hope of what they can do.
Yep.
So here's the story that I always tell. So I didn't work in the Canadian public system until 2005, and I'm working in a fairly big high school, and I need to find a teacher who happens to be what's called the special needs teacher, and we can talk about, the awful labels there. And so I'm told to go find him in the resource room. And I'm like, the resource room? Like where you keep the paper and do the photocopying? How do you know he's in there? And they're like, no, the resource room. I'm like, what on earth are you talking about? And that's in BC. I don't know if it's the same across the country, but that's what they call the special needs room. The resource room. What the hell's that all about, right? So again, you put that label on kids, you put it on them early, it sticks. You say that their needs are somehow special, exceptional, and different, and it sticks all the way through. And it's just they're just not regular people that just need something a little bit different that should be happening anyway, right?
Right.
So,
and it's hard. I used to try to explain to parents. So if a child had to go on to a learning plan, and the parents would be hesitant because all they know is what we saw when we were in school, right? I remember in high school when they first did inclusion in New Brunswick, they would announce in the high school, everybody in the second floor, clear the hallways. We're moving the SPED kids through. Honest to goodness. I was talking to one of our members today who says, because we went to the same high school, I was just a couple years older. He says, I was one of those SPED kids. I was like, oh my gosh. I said, so this is where we come from. So I understand the parents being hesitant. I would say, I want you to think of an accommodated plan like this. My mother-in-law is a little bit on the shorter side. She has a pantry off her kitchen. She wants to use a top shelf, just like I would. So we've given her an accommodation. It's a step stool. Once I give her the step stool, she has to reach everything on the top shelf, just like you or I would. So the accommodation is just that little step up, that little tool that helps them get there. And then they have to do everything else the same. And these parents thought that they were getting some sort of tool and not reaching the same goals. And if you can give them that visual, that made a big difference.
I think that's an excellent visual, right? I think that, and a really good way of putting it is that it's, it's whatever we can do. I was mentioning I have an autistic granddaughter who's 6, and I say it's like, working with her as she grows older, it's like a puzzle box, and we just keep unlocking each layer, and we don't know what we're going to get to yet, but we have to unlock each layer, right? We have to work out what it is that she needs, because she's nonverbal. She can't tell us yet, but she may be able to if we unlock that next layer, right? So. My
Madison did not speak till she was 5 with her autism. Now you can't shut her up. She'll be heading your way soon, because she's just finishing up her basic training in the Army, and then she's going into the Navy. So when you can unlock that right box, and they can do anything. But we have to give them a chance to unlock the box first.
So why is it, let's go back to New Brunswick, why is it that you are on the $918, the lowest in the country? Why is it that you're fighting so hard, as you say, 2 hospitals for abortions, and there's no transport to get you there, and the spraying and the Irvins, and why is it?
Because there's this notion, we are put in under the regular social assistance program, right? So we don't have an ODSP, or we're just in regular social assistance. And there's this notion everybody on social assistance is just lazy and wants to sit home and not work. The worst part is there's 2 parts of social assistance. There's the regular benefits, and then there's the extended benefits. So if you're on regular assistance, you get $818 a month. If you're on extended benefits, you get that whole extra $100 party.
Yeah.
So they, and there's 10,000 plus people waiting to get housing. Even if you do get a rent subsidy through the government, it's probably not accessible, or it's half-ass accessible, that where, the doors aren't wide enough, or, well, it's just one step. She's in a wheelchair. Well, it's just one step. We have people that have to leave their wheelchairs outdoors with a tarp over it, their motorized chair chained to a balcony, and then they have to drag themselves upstairs, and then they have a small manual chair inside their apartment. Because we had to plea on the media last year because a gentleman in St. John had his motorized chair stolen. And we pleaded enough that somebody returned it. We're like, you took this person's legs, return it. This is the only way they can function and get around. And someone eventually returned it.
All I can hope is that when somebody steals somebody's wheelchair is that their need was really, really great, and that they weren't just a complete and utter arsehole.
Yeah.
That their need was that's all I can hope, because otherwise there is no hope in humanity for that person.
Yeah, well, and that's what I said to on the media. I said, unless there was that financial need that was so grave that they had no other choice but to do that. And it was the later. They were just an absolute a-hole because they returned it out of guilt, thank goodness, but it wasn't the same, and that person felt completely violated. And that's the problem. Our government just doesn't get what it means to have a disability. And everything in New Brunswick has been, through the disability industrial complex, has been farmed out for years. And we have these disability groups who get all kinds of money from the government to provide services that are now part of that circle. And they have no choice. They're stuck in the system as well. If they don't play the game and play the government lingo, then they lose that, and then there's no services, right? So they're stuck in that vicious circle. And it's horrific, and nobody wants to call the government out. There's just us, because we don't take any government money, that actually calls them out on poverty. And it's unbelievable.
That's us. That was one of our day one decisions at DWP. No government money for us either, right?
No.
And it's hard when you got to raise all of that money, and it's not easy. But you make those decisions so you can say what you want about whoever you want. That's right.
You're not tied to the government of the day and their policies, because we know that these policies are not being made from our perspective and with our needs in mind. And they should be. We are the single largest demographic anywhere in this country.
Yeah, you're the 35% there, right? You're never mind the 27%.
35.3 and an 8.6% increase in the last census period.
I've been wondering about that because, the numbers went up nationally, right? Do you think it's because disability has gone up? I mean, I don't have an answer to this. I'm just, pushing it out there to the two of you. Do you think it's because disability went up, or do you think it's because people have got more comfortable with identifying as disabled?
I think it's a bit of both. So COVID caused a lot of disabilities, right? So we know that. And I think people have heard enough about disability pride that they're starting to say, okay, I guess it's okay to say I have a disability. I don't have to be ashamed of that anymore. And we put a real push on. So the city of Fredericton, the first city in the province, raised the disability pride flag for NAW Week here. It was a huge thing. We've got several. We're really going hard after different communities to raise the flag for July as well, and explaining what it means, disability pride, and why it's important. And we've got several communities that are interested now. Some of them are very small communities, larger communities, but we're really pushing it because we want, the more people understand something, the less they fear it, and the more they're willing to work with us. And that's what we're hoping to get out of this.
Yeah, no, I was just going back to that. It keeps going in my head, and then it takes a left and goes right back out. But back to that piece of government and not taking money from government, partially because it doesn't matter which government is in control this is beyond a single party. It's beyond
Yes.
like this needs all party support from municipal all the way up to federal, right? Like it is.
Yeah.
It is everybody on board because like you say, we're dealing with such a large percentage of the population.
No, and I mean, really, well, the first thing all levels of government could do is look at the building codes and say, okay, we're building a lot of housing. Everything going forward is going to be built off the basis of universal design and easily adaptable design. If we do that, we don't have to. In New Brunswick, they build housing and then they go and spend millions to retrofit it. No, let's start with easily adaptable and universal design. Australia does it. In Norway, you cannot get money as a developer to build an apartment building unless it's UD. There are people that do it right. Let's follow it.
They also do things, though, looking at wheelchair radius, but without any furniture.
Yeah.
Or in one particular area of the apartment, not the entire space.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to, obviously, the teacher and me, that horrific, clear the hallways, the sped kids are coming. So let's, imagine in every classroom, obviously, where all of those kids hearing that have now gone on to be your politicians and your bureaucrats and all the rest of it. Right. Yep. And so the idea that the sped kids, that we shouldn't go near them and we shouldn't help them, right, in the most, just basic way, moving along the hallway or whatever it is, becomes hardwired into people. And so when you get into positions where you can make change, they're still the weird kids that we kept out of the hallway from.
Yeah. Well, the finance minister was in my school. We went to high school together. So, yeah, there you go. Right. So these are the things that have caused so many problems for so long. And I feel bad for the younger generation because we have just screwed this world up. We've screwed up the environment. We've screwed up the planet. And we're going to leave it all on them to fix. Fix it.
So here we are with our CDB and $200, which, as Shelley, you keep reminding me, it's
only a start.
It's a start, but it's a big percentage difference in New Brunswick.
Right.
How are you feeling about whether it's going to be clawed back in your province? How are you feeling on talking to your former schoolmate finance minister about those things? How are those conversations going, if you can share?
Well, what they're telling us and what we've heard, the province, our government won't talk about it. They leave it to social development, who says, well, no, we're not going to claw it back. And I say, any amount? Because we're hearing from people in Ottawa that are in the know that you guys will only agree to let us keep 200, and anything over 200 you're clawing back. And then the stammering starts. So they're okay with 200, but anything more than that, they're keeping for themselves.
And I just find that with your $918, I find that despicable, right? You guys need all the help you can get, right?
Yeah.
And is that just a dollar for dollar amount? That doesn't even include you can have that, but we're going to take this service away from you, or we're going to take this other thing.
Let's say you're someone who's able to work part-time and you work. So the first $500 in a month you get to keep. Everything after that for the next $250, they keep 50%. So if you made $1,000, you get to keep $750 out of it. Anything after that, they keep it. It's a dollar for dollar clawback. So it's, why would you try and work? And then if you start to work, you lose your housing subsidy if you have one, and you very quickly lose your health card. If you don't have your medications, or you can't replace your wheelchair every 5 years or get a new hospital bed when it breaks, how are you going to work? You can't.
Okay, so I have to ask, because disability with possibility here, you are, as you say, contained to your home most of the time because of your disability. Mm-hmm. And you are a leading light in provincial disability advocacy. Stories you've told us today, and you should know if you don't already know, you are known throughout the country for the positivity and the strength and the passion and the desire to make a change. What's next? What's your next 2 months of okay, after you're going to march on Monday and God willing, everything's going to be, you're going to have your gas mask on.
Yeah.
You're going to rest on Tuesday because Monday's going to take it out of you, or at least Tuesday. What are you doing after that, Shelley?
For most of July, I am an intervener with the Public Utilities Board because they're trying to put our power up 9.5% this year and another 9.5% next year. That will leave our members with no food. They will have to choose between food and heat, because about 10% live in MB housing where their heat and power is included, but a lot get a rent subsidy and they pay their own heat and lights. So they can't afford that. When a one-bedroom apartment is costing you $300 a month for your heat and lights, you can't afford that when you're only getting $900 to start with and you're paying 30% of that out for your rent subsidy. So I'm fighting that. That's going to be most of July. So while I sit there and listen to them talk about lead loads and this and that about power that I don't get. And I'm like, well, I read the documents at night when I need to fall asleep. And right. So, but then after that, we are working right now with the New Brunswick Medical Society. They are great allies with us. We're able to work with them and get mammogram chairs in all the hospitals to make it easier for people with wheelchairs and walkers and canes to get mammograms done. And our next big thing is working on sensitivity training and disability training for medical staff from the janitors right up to the CEOs. And that's our big push for the next year. We need to see more of that.
So, Shelley, you are incredible. That's a wonderful list of things to spend your summer on. I hope that this heat dome moves out and that none of us get another one this summer. And I really hope that you are able to stay as active and as healthy as you're appearing to us right now, knowing how hard that is for you. Shelley Petit, thank you so much for all you do, not just for the people of New Brunswick, but for the people of the Canada who you are an inspiration to. Thank you so much.
Well, and I want to thank you guys because you don't know what DWP has done. We started as a coalition the same week as the pandemic, right? Our little coalition here, ironically. And we started on the Monday, Friday was the shutdown. So, we existed for 1 week before everything went to Zoom. But when we found DWP at the start of halfway through the pandemic, it really helped, I think, across the country. People open their eyes and go, oh, this isn't just in my province. This isn't just in my neighborhood. This is across Canada. And you guys gave us that way for everyone to come together. And that's when we realized, I always go back to the movie, The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. And while he's by the fence, he's talking, we can say, and so we've got New Brunswick and we've got Nova Scotia and we've got Quebec and Ontario and BC. And each of us, we can be strong in our groups. But together, we have the power and we are stronger. And that's what I see DWP has done. You brought all these disability groups all across the country together with one platform to fight with. And we've seen the power. Because whether you guys see the huge success in the $200 or not, $6.1 billion that they're investing. And yes, it might be over so many years, but that's the single biggest investment ever in a one-time thing. In a few years. I honestly thought this would take 20 years to get to this point, knowing how government works. It is huge what we've done in a little bit of time. And so now they have to realize it's our way easy or our way hard. So they better start doing it our way or we take over.
Well, Shelley, the first day that a penny goes into somebody's bank account, we can party. And then the day after that, we get back to work.
Damn straight.
Promise you that. From one side of the country to the other.
We're not stopping.
Well, Amanda, another great conversation.
I just adore Shelley. And if anybody wants to tell you that multiple chemical sensitivities is not a real thing, they should just listen to this podcast.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have this sort of ready to go to post to people and email out for all of those non-believers in the future. But great conversation with somebody who is such a good friend to us at DWP.
Such a supporter and such an activist in her own right of so much intelligence and power and passion is just so abundantly clear in what she does.
Yeah, I'm in awe of her with everything that she just told us.
Yeah, really lucky to have her. Again, if you like this podcast, share it with every single person that you have ever met. And join us next time when we talk to a young woman from Quebec named Elizabeth Lowe. If you would like to make comments or suggestions,
but only nice ones, of course,
please reach out to us at hello@disabilitywithoutpoverty.ca. If you want to talk to either Michelle or Amanda specifically, it's just our individual names, Amanda@disabilitywithoutpoverty.ca or Michelle@disabilitywithoutpoverty.ca.
And to find more about what this whole Disability Without Poverty shebang is about, our website is disabilitywithoutpoverty.ca.
And I dance, dancing with the flames.
Disability with Possibility is made possible by many, many people. However, a few key people that we would like to thank are Christina Sheldon for her fabulous theme song, producer Dave Shumka with Kelly and Kelly, and all the funders and partners who help us do what we do.